Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I'm being joined by Phil, Jenny, and Beth today. It took a little bit of reining the cats in the bag for us to stop laughing hard enough to get to this moment to push the record button. But we are going to talk about is hope your superpower? And that's kind of like a broad topic. Before we dive into that, though, just a little reminder to come like us on our social media platforms such as TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and follow us on your favorite podcasts like Apple or Google or Spotify. But Beth, do you want to explain we've kind of been ruminating about this for a couple of weeks actually, which is a really long time for this group to be thinking about something. But there's actually a reason behind this conversation today.
Yes, ma'am. So recently I had the elusive Phil Richmond, Dr. Phil Richmond. Oh, there he is. He's gone again. I had him come in virtually and work with my management team to help identify some of their character strengths and use that in leadership coaching. Basically, we're trying to help our team feel more comfortable to lead and also learn more about ways we can help them lead. So learning about their character strengths is one way to do that. And one of the things that then we did is then talked about everybody's strengths and kind of correlated that with to different situations in the hospital in which they thrive, or some of their strengths that were lower on the list. Are there situations that are like more challenging for them, and then giving them pointers and sort of work through some of that. So we started talking about it in this group because a lot of us have overlapping strengths, especially Phil, Jenny, and I all having humor as number one. And one of the other ones that was really high on my list and is on both of their lists pretty high is hope. And I found it really interesting. Like, I have sort of a bubbly personality and I'm very positive and I always look for ways to help everyone succeed in the best in every situation. And I found that the rest of my leadership team, like hope, they had a lot more analytical style skills that were higher up, and like judgment and fairness and things like that. And a lot of them, their hope was much lower on the list. So I had like exclaimed to Phil, I'm the only one with any hope in my whole practice, which is, wildly exaggerating the situation. But that's what sort of led us to this topic. And I feel like Phil should talk about it a little bit because he'll be able to more eloquently speak about the character strengths than me.
Yes, thank you, Beth. And so it was very exciting to get to do that. And yes, it's always exciting when we have three people who have humor as their number one character strength. Like, that's exciting. And we just said character strength. So what in the heck does that mean? Some people listening may have taken the Gallup Strengths Finder, where you do that. What is that? It's like I forget, but I know woo was one of my
Oh,
strengths.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's one of mine
Yeah.
too.
Oh
Was
yeah,
one
I'm
of
sure.
mine.
I'm sure 100%. Well, our
I
character
feel like
profiles
maybe
are
we
very,
were all
very
like
similar.
we're all split at birth. Am I the
Yeah,
only
probably
Yeah.
one
the
that's
same,
seen
Yeah.
this?
loosely
Yeah.
the same people.
Right,
Yes.
right.
But what the basis of it is that when we look at our strengths, is that I love using the old example of Spud Webb. So Spud Webb was a basketball player in the NBA back in the 1990s. And so Spud Webb was 5'7", and Spud Webb won the 1996 NBA dunk championship. Like, that's bananas. Like, a dude that's 5'7" was dunking a basketball, not just dunking, not able to dunk it, but won the whole damn thing. Like, that's incredible and that's amazing. And there's only one Spud Webb, really, and that's really the thing, is that there is only one Spud Webb. When we look overall at success in the NBA, or just physical characteristics of NBA players, out of the almost 5,000, or more NBA players, there's only a handful that are 5'9" and under. And of the all stars, of the 500 or 300 all stars, in the NBA, there's only two that were 5'9" and under. So it doesn't mean that if you're short, if you don't have if that physical strength of height, doesn't mean that you can't be successful, but it's way harder. And so if we do things that come naturally to us, like, and I know Beth is you're a runner, right, Beth?
Yeah.
Don't you run? Like if Beth and I were to try like run, like she would destroy me. Like it wouldn't even be fair. And then, but if we like went into the gym and did deadlifting, like, I mean, I would probably do better at that. Because it's just the difference of physical characteristics that we're better at and we've trained for, and we've done those things. So the same thing goes for our emotional strengths, our character strengths, like the way that we operate in the world. If we tap into those, and first off, if we have an awareness of those strengths, we're way better off. For instance, Jenny, your number one character strength is humor.
Yes, it is.
What? And we're talking, by the way, when we say character strengths, we're talking about the VIA values and action character strengths assessment, which is awesome tool. Big thing in positive psychology, really cool history around it. But what is your least powerful strength? So there's 24 of them, 1 through 24. What is that?
My lowest is self-regulation.
Self-regulation.
That is absolutely,
fair. And what's your 23rd?
23rd was perseverance. My last four were humility, which maybe is a problem for me. Prudence, which my husband would say 100%. I love how they describe prudence: being careful about one's choices, not taking undue risks, or doing things that might later be regretted.
That is my lowest one.
Yeah. Right. And so what I would say, all of us, same with me, my 2 is humility and self-regulation.
Yeah.
And humility just meaning like the 3 of us, if we're in a room, you're probably going to know that we're in the room. Like, and I don't mean that, like, it just is, is that we're not, it's not uncomfortable for us to be the center of attention. I'm not saying it's good or bad, and it can be, potentially, if we don't play it right, it can be an issue. But that's what humility means. It just means that, and it doesn't mean that we're not grateful for, like, we're so good or we're the best or anything like that. It's saying that we're okay being, in front of people or the center of attention, or, like making jokes and that kind of thing, which goes hand in hand.
I like that you said that it means we're not grateful, because my number 2 is gratitude.
Yeah. So, and as I should say that is, as we go on here, let's do this, is when we assess our strengths, we look at our signature strengths, and what our signature strengths are. It's a group of strengths depending on which tool you use. And there's the Gallup strengths, the Strengths Finder, there's the VIA strengths, there's Strength Scope. There's a handful of them, but the basis of all of them is that find out what you do well naturally, and then craft your day, your business day, your personal day around those. Try to craft it around those strengths. So Jenny, what are your top 5?
My top 5 are humor, gratitude, hope, kindness, and forgiveness, which is really funny because I have a fair number of team members. The fact that I am very forgiving of like clients, team members that maybe are rude or, and I'm like, nope, everybody's allowed to have a bad day. And I try to understand and all of that. It drives them crazy. They're like, you're too good. You shouldn't put up with it. And I'm like, it's just in my nature. Like, this is who I am. I don't hold grudges. I don't have time for that nonsense. So yeah.
So in the VIA strengths, again, there's 24 of them. So judgment is one of those. Judgment and open-mindedness. Where is that on yours? I'm curious. If forgiveness is 5, where's judgment?
Was 20.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty low because I do. But it's interesting because then curiosity is number 6.
Yeah. Okay. So that does fit in that. With forgiveness, it doesn't mean we forget about things, but that we can give people the permission to be human.
Yes.
And we can say, like, is this, can I offload that? and do that in a way that I don't hold on to resentment, which, in recovery terms, we talk about resentment. Resentment is a poison that we drink and hope the other person dies, you know? So, so we just heard that. So how you, one example already of how you use that character strength in the workplace. Beth, what are your top 5?
Mine are humor, creativity, love of learning, hope, and curiosity.
Yeah. And hope is in my top 10, which, by the way, they can be tied. So like if you have 5, 6, or 7, like if you have number 8 on your VIA character strengths and you're like, what? Like for me, I think gratitude is 7. And I was like, what? Like like that. Like I feel like I do really well. So I think I had like I had two I had ties, like 3 of them that were tied for a certain one, and another one I had 3 of them that were tied, and they had to put them in a ranking, so they were all of equal value. So when I look at my character strengths, I look at like 9, 9 of them, not the top
So
5.
what are your top
But you
5,
both have
Phil?
let's see. So I've taken it a number of times, but humor, love, well, I'll go through gratitude, love, leadership, judgment, humor is always number 1. What else? And hope is on there. What else do I have?
Beth, how high was leadership
Yeah.
in yours?
So I don't have my full list with me because I was not prepared for class, but I think that leadership was relatively high on mine. I think it was in my top 10 because I remember
Yeah.
looking at that and being like, I don't have any leadership-y stuff in my
And so,
top 5, but
well, and
is.
so
It's in my top
leadership,
10.
and so this is how it's. So let me say this is that the way the leadership questions are asked, it's more of, do you, like, almost like, are you the person that organizes events and rallies the troops and gets people together? And that is, I mean, that is a form of leadership, but it's not necessarily always coaching somebody to get better or anything like that. So
Right.
if you're a leader, and leadership is what I will say is leadership is probably not 24. If you're in a leadership position,
Then you
but
have a problem.
leadership doesn't, because you see that word and it's like, oh my God, like, why is leadership not higher? But I know for me, like, I am somebody that, like, I was the social chair of my, vet school class, and I did, all these things, and like, I will put together organization. Yeah. Shocker.
I'm
Right.
surprised.
Yeah. Shocking for everyone listening. But saying, again, is like hope. So for the 3 of us, hope landed on this. And that's really what we were going to talk about today, is how does hope play into the work that you do as a leader in the hospital and as a veterinarian? And then Beth, and then Jenny.
That's a really good question. I mean, I guess I find hope is extremely helpful to me personally to not get discouraged by
Yeah.
a lot of what is around me that can be really disheartening and frustrating. And I think on sort of the bigger scale picture of like the whole mental health problem in veterinary
Mhm.
medicine is we deal with a lot of very heavy things. And it's really easy, whether that's so it's very easy to get downtrodden by it, I think. And whether that's
Mhm.
like dealing with a difficult case that you can't save, or a very angry client, or interpersonal stuff with your coworkers that's really challenging. Like I feel like it all can be very heavy, and it's hard to mentally switch from thing to thing, from happy to sad, like to compartmentalize that. And I think, having hope for me at least has been a way that I can better handle those feelings, is like being able to frame even the most negative situations or people in a light of trying to still see the best in that situation.
Yeah.
And I find when I'm coaching my team and talking to them about it, that's one of those things that's it's really hard to coach. Like I've found, at least, like, because it's hard to, I don't know, Phil, you can probably talk about that a little better, but I find that challenging because I feel like
Yeah.
I'm just like kind of naturally a glass is half full sort of a person.
Yeah.
And I know that you can train yourself to be better, like by practicing gratitude and all the things you can do. But it is kind of hard when you're like naturally positive to just
Mhm.
have it's harder to be like, well, can't you just like be more positive? And people are
Right.
like, no, everything's dying and everything's horrible. And I'm like,
Right.
but so, but for me, that's
So
how it helps me.
yeah. So one of the things about hope is, when we talk about positive psychology, we talk about positive leadership and positive workplaces and this kind of thing. And positivity, like it's not toxic positivity.
Right.
And hope sometimes can get wrapped up in, oh, we're always looking at the bright side. And it's different than that. And Adam Grant, so I love the term like around hope, that I like to think of myself as a realistic optimist, which just means like I'm not like it's not all the time, but the three of us, I think, give space for the opportunity for something good to happen. It doesn't mean like something completely shits the bed and then we're like, oh, that's okay. Like, we address things as they come up. We're real about the situation at hand. But the way Adam Grant describes it, and I think the three of us are fans of Adam Grant, it's safe to say. But he talks about realistic optimism through the lens of, he calls it informed optimism. And I love this quote. He said, informed optimism doesn't mean you only look at the bright side. It means you don't overlook the bright side. If you won't see possibility, you can't solve problems. If you can't imagine a best case, you don't make things better. He said and this is what I love about hope, and I think this is really powerful, why it's such a powerful character strength, is the greatest antidote to fear is grounded hope. Like not just everything's always great, but like grounded hope. Like we have to be, if we don't have an opportunity to see something good, it's very hard to walk through that. And I'm pretty sure, Beth, you read the book Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Didn't you read that book? Yeah. Powerful book. So Viktor Frankl is I think he's either a psychiatrist or a psychologist. He lived through the Holocaust. Hugely powerful book on perception, in the face of those things. And I just love, his work resonates. And, I think it would for all three of us as well. But anyway, that's where hope really comes in. And so what's the challenge is like you said, Beth, is that we have a negativity bias as human beings. Like we are geared to look at the negative part. But that hope is like, it's a huge factor of resilience. Like optimism is one of the seven, depending on which model you look at. But when we look at resilience and being able to bounce back from really challenging things, optimism is one of those tools. So Jenny, how does hope work for you in the hospital?
Well, it's interesting because I went through a very long period of oh my gosh, my brain just went blank. Oh, when you think you don't deserve things, but you're a high achiever.
Imposter syndrome.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Boy, I mean, it was gone. In my brain, it was gone. Well done. But yeah, so I went through a huge period of
You got it.
We got it.
a huge period of imposter syndrome where I'm running a business. My degree is not in running a business. No one is telling me how to run a business, even though I go to all these classes and I learn from all the best and all this. And, I don't understand finances. I don't understand all this. And at the time when I was really in the thick of this, in my late 30s, early 40s, I was like waiting for the next bad thing to happen. Okay, now what? Okay, now what's going to break? Oh, great. Now my truck broke. I need to buy another one. Oh, the ultrasound broke. I need to get that, and it was just one. And I swear that because I was like manifesting it, I just expected these bad things and they were going to happen and they did. And the thing now is, it's not that those things don't still happen. I just had to buy a new truck in November because we drive them into the ground. My endoscope just broke. My dental x-ray machine just broke. The endoscope's getting fixed. The dental x-ray machine, I had to buy a new one. Like these things still happen. But now I'm like, okay, I can't control this. How do we move forward?
Bingo.
And I think that the big thing for me was when I was dealing with imposter syndrome, okay, I felt like I didn't deserve to run a business and I felt like bad things were going to happen. So what did I do? I went back to school. I took classes on accounting, on human resources, on,
Mhm.
small business management. These things, I educated myself. I still have moments of imposter syndrome. I think we all do.
Mhm.
But I always say to myself now, I didn't come this far to fail. Like the Apollo 13, failure is not an option.
No.
We went to the Air and Space Museum and I saw that everywhere. And I'm like buying stickers and pins to go in my backpack. And I'm like, failure is not an option. And it is this idea that like we didn't put all this work into it to fail. You guys didn't go to vet school to fail, right? You just keep, it's not like there weren't some hard parts of vet school. It's not like there aren't hard parts of managing, running a veterinary practice, but we're not going to fail. And so I think as soon as I take that out of my head, that really failure isn't, again, I don't want to say I don't believe in failing, and it's not to say that I haven't made mistakes, but if you learn from it, I don't consider it a failure. I consider it a
Yep.
redirect, a learning opportunity. Like it's just in how you do it.
I was
But
going to
yeah,
say, I think it depends how you define it.
Yeah.
it is. It is. And I think the definition of hope per this via character thing is expecting the best in the future and working to achieve it. And believing that a good future is something that can be brought about. And I think we start spiraling into this, woe is me, this is horrible, oh, this is happening again and again, and this victim mentality. And you stop believing that it can be better. And isn't that all hope is believing that, okay, today's a crappy day. Okay, I'm gonna cry it out. I'm gonna, I just can't handle it anymore. The weight of the world's on my shoulder. I'm gonna close my office door and I'm gonna like, ugly cry. And then I'm gonna move on. And I know it's gonna get better. And to me, that is that. But right, it is extremely hard when you have team members or clients. You know those clients that come in and they are miserable, and you know that they're miserable at the grocery store and at the bank and at their doctors. And like, they're just, woe is me. This is horrible. Like one of my techs walked into a room, was it yesterday, or the day before, and said, how are you today? And she's like, well, I don't know how you think I'm going to answer that. And my technician was like, I'm just here to help your dog. Like,
That's nice.
be mad at me.
Oh.
Like, honey, in all this time, I've never had a pleasant conversation with this client because she's just a miserable person.
Well, she just wants to be the victim all the time.
Right. And so to me, hope
No.
is being able to pick yourself up and say, there's an opportunity for it to be better. There is a brighter future. But Phil, how do you teach people? How do you help coach
Well,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
So
make my
there's-
team
there's
have
two
hope.
things-
I want you to make my
yeah,
team have
well,
hope.
do you have a magic wand?
and so we can't make, is that, and also realizing is that if everybody's character strength was hope,
Right.
what goes along with hope, like sometimes what goes along with hope doesn't tack in with self-regulation and some of the things that we don't do so hot. So that is what, is that diverse character strengths and diverse, opinions are important. What I was going to say is, like, I think of conversations that I have with my friend Jules Benson, who is possibly like the smartest or one of the smartest people that I know. And this dude, like, but we're like, I'm a little on this side of the positive, and he, by his own admission, is on this side of the negative. But together, when we come, like, it's really freaking amazing, like watching us bring each other to, like, I can see things that I might have gotten a little Pollyannish and missed and not considered that might have tripped me up, in the future. And then he sees things that he's like, wow, I was so, focusing on all the problems. I wasn't able to put wind in the sails of the sailboat and move it forward. I was just slugging water out of there. But two things that both of you said that I think was really important. One is the power of perception. My truck breaks down. Like that is an event.
Right.
Like there is no, and Stoic philosophers would say, it's not, it's, we are upset about our thoughts about things, not the things themselves. And so one of the things that was powerful for me is like something would have, like the roof, like we had our roof a number of years ago go off, or not go up, but like we had to replace the whole roof. That is a big deal. As we would say. And I got to sit with that and go, damn, like because of all these things we've done, and like we did that, we're in a position that like this, like we're able to do this. And I was like grateful that we were able to do it. It's like the truck.
Yeah.
And that's where I was going. It's like, I can be like, oh, damn it. Like this shit always had, and then this, and then that's money I was going to use for this. And then, and the truck still broke, like the bottom line is we still got to get a new truck. Or it's like, thank God, like we, we're in a position, we got a healthy business, we're taking care of all these people. And in the face of all that, I can walk in and I'm in a position right now, to do that. And what's interesting is if we look at the level of subjective well-being of someone in Calcutta versus someone in the United States, it's almost exactly the same. Is that to a point, and I'm not completely taking out minimizing health and well, but there's only so much that stuff does for us. And again, like if I have this stuff and it breaks, and it's not gonna positively affect my well-being. And so when that happens, it's harder for me to see a good outcome. And the more important thing that both of you said was the autonomy, is that we don't, as Herm Edwards would say, a dream without a plan is a wish. Is like, we can see it. Yeah. I mean, he gets into it. And then he's like, and then his other one is, you can type it, but don't hit send. It's like he's talking about like NFL players getting in trouble, sending text messages or tweets or whatever. Saying you can type it, but don't hit send. Great. I mean, just great modern philosopher. But it's the autonomy, it's the agency of, I believe that something good can happen. And what did you do, Jenny? You took classes, like you did this stuff. Is that there's a strong concept in positive psychology, and psychology is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if I think that I suck at dentals, I'm horrible at dentistry. See, I can't do dentistry. I am as a person bad. Then what do? I don't do the things to improve on it because it's not going to help me because I'm not good at it. And then what happens? Then I get dentistry cases and then they go bad and they're tougher. And see, I told you, see, I'm no good at it. Or if I look at it and say dentistry is a skill set. Like surgery is a skill set. If I do more CE, if I do these things, I will improve on those. Just like you did, Jenny. Is like, I'm in this position. Let me take courses to put myself in a position to be better at what I'm doing. And then what happens? Oh, this thing happened. Oh, I learned that thing. Oh, this helped. Oh, it's and then it's like, and then what happens to imposter syndrome? Then it's just then it's like, oh, well, I haven't learned that yet. It's not me. It's just, I'm a human being that hasn't gotten that skill. Let me ask so-and-so, or let me do this. And then, oh, a positive outcome. And then it goes up. And so that too, Beth, like to your point, is like, what are some of the things we can do with that? Is like, it was actually on the list and we didn't get to it, but I'll put it in the after exercises. But is around self-fulfilling prophecies. Is that it really is like we say, oh, I manifested it. It's like, well, yes, kind of. I mean, you went and did the things that are going to give are going to increase the likelihood that you're going to be successful, in doing that. And so, and then the cool thing about positive emotion is the more it happens, the better we feel, the better, like more positive emotion feels, the better, the broader our scope becomes. We don't get negative and, focus on the bad. We see all the options of what can be. And it's this positive spiral. Yeah. Kelly.
So how often are we taught this as a society? I mean, because normally we're taught that the negative cycle, like that client that, your tech walked into and she just was like, meh, right? Because she's taught that if she elevates the meh, she gets attention and but it's unsustainable. That negative emotion is you can't keep fueling that fire, right? Because the fire, like everybody will just kind of ignore you after a while, and then there's nobody to listening to your griping, right? But I don't know where outside of people like you, Phil, or these sort of things, where that counter education comes in to say, hey, let's look at the positive spiral, and that's okay.
There's definitely not enough of it formally, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
me either. Because even in like you all know, I do marketing, so I can't get that lens off of me. So I look at every single advertising, every single media thing out there, and it's all negative based. It's made for you to feel bad. You to feel bad, so then you go do an action that whatever is being promoted, be a product or a mental shift or something. Right. But it's the negative versus like what Phil and you guys were talking. It feels like, let's do this. Let's get the positive going. Let's get the spin going up. But I don't know a lot of places on just our everyday life. So now you guys are going to start watching ads and marketing and going, wait a minute, what are they doing here? Right. What are they trying to tell us?
Well,
That's why I was asking Phil, are there many places out there that you know of?
yeah.
This?
I mean, yes, so there are. So there's, I mean, there's books, there's tons of stuff. There's, geez, I mean, I could yank out, but Sean Aker, that's kind of the first, it's called The Happiness Advantage. That's the first, like,
oh yeah, I read that.
Like business book related thing, which by the way, listen to his TED talk. The dude is he is like a stand-up comedian. He's brilliant. He's a Harvard positive psychology professor. But it's also is like, oh, well, this is bullshit. Like, this isn't going to help business. This is just fluff, crap. Enter data. So this is my favorite part, is that when we look at that negativity bias, is that when we look at optimism and relations to sales success, when they looked at, so MetLife did this big study with University of Pennsylvania. Extremely optimistic sales agents outsold the extreme pessimists by 88%.
88.
That's a lot.
Hold up. Buckle in, kids.
Oh.
We're getting back on the freeway, because in real estate, optimistic sales agents outsold the pessimists by 33%. But if we look at the outliers, the extremely optimistic sales agents outsold the extremely pessimistic sales agents by 319%.
Wow.
Now, so the argument would be, in what we do as veterinary professionals is we have to be realistic optimists. We can't go in and just always look at the bright side, but there's a space for intellectual humility, that's, hey, like, maybe this case doesn't go south because I don't, I mean, we take the data and everything we have, but the other thing is like, man, I don't know everything. Like, I send cases to the specialists who are way smarter than me, and then sometimes they can't figure it out, and the case gets better or, gets better. But is it, how much, did I play in that from an intellectual standpoint? Anyway, where I'm going with this too is like, there is a place, like, we don't want an optimistic air traffic controller. You know, it's like, oh, well, sorry.
It's fine. They'll all land.
Yeah, I
That'll
was like,
probably
it's
be
too
okay. I'm not going to worry about it.
Sorry. Oh, I said F.
Unfiltered. It's fine.
Yeah.
Unfiltered.
But it's too soon for air traffic control things.
Yeah.
But just saying is like, yes, there are places where when we're more pessimistic, it pays off. Like sometimes in law, you know, it's like that. Sometimes in medicine, you know, there are times where, you know, optimism isn't always, you know, helpful. But I will say, like in the bit, like as a team, from a team perspective, yeah, like we've got to have hope. We've got to have hope for the profession. Like, you know, that's the other thing is, you know, we hear, oh, this is happening and everything's going south. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, why don't I just quit? You know, if everything is going to, like, if the whole profession is going to go to hell, why would I keep doing this? And it's because I see the opportunity, like you guys do. You know, we see the opportunity for good in the profession. And if there's an opportunity for good, like, why wouldn't we want to fight for it? Beth?
I think to Kelly's point, you have to go and search for it. It's not taught. You're not going to learn it. You're not going to have somebody come up to you and be like, okay, this is how you change your mindset. This is how you change your perception. This is how you become more hopeful. You have to go and look for it. And like you guys, I don't know the book that you guys were doing, but my husband and I read The Happiness Project together.
Yeah.
You know, which was a great, same thing. It's like, okay, well, let's do an experiment on happiness. I didn't even think of that. But she did it, and we're like, oh, that's cool. And, you know, Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso is a great show about hope, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's coming back.
I know. I'm so
Come
excited.
back.
So
But
excited.
I just think it's like one of those things everybody talks about what a great show Ted Lasso is, right? And how, and everybody was so, oh, I'm so inspired by it. And yet, do we look at that and say, oh, I'm Ted? Like, that's who I want to be. I want to forgive people who do wrong. I want to have hope for the future. I want to try new things. I want, you know, no, we watch it and we're in awe of it. And then we go back and become our Roy Kent, but earlier Roy Kent, not Roy Kent who's gone through all the growth, right? We just cuss a lot and get pissed. So it's, you know, I don't know. I just feel like you have to go searching for it and you have to believe in yourself that you can be more hopeful.
And I really truly feel like you have to practice. Like I think even those of us who are naturally more hopeful or more positive or filled with gratitude, like you still have to practice because there's been periods of my life where I know I was not as as good of a place, and I can see it in like looking back, you can see it. And I can see it in my team, like when they're not in as good of a place, you see it, like to speak to how it affects the workplace. But I think in order to do it well, it's like any other skill. Like you're not being naturally good is only going to take you so far.
Yep.
You have to actually practice it too.
So how can we do this? And I'm so glad that we had, like, it made me remember this whole set of like thing that, so we're going to do this with your team, Beth. I just remembered it and I just brought it up. So to your point, so when we say optimistic and pessimistic people, there's really a thinking and explanatory style that goes hand in hand with that. Ooh, so what we're going to do is we're going to practice just two things. So the language that we use and the thought process that we have, and it goes along with what we were talking about, is the event is the event. So I got promoted at work. That's it. Why? One response might be, I work hard for what I want to get. Is that an optimistic thinking and explanatory style or a pessimistic thinking and explanatory style?
It's realistic.
Ooh.
Well, it's but it's.
But I mean, I guess I don't see it as either way. It's I worked hard, and so.
Well, that's. I would say. Let me temper this by saying it's also biased by the group that we have here. Let me read the other response.
Okay.
I got promoted at work. Well, because there wasn't anybody else available for the position, probably.
Okay, yeah, that one's pessimistic.
Right.
Right.
And the only fact is that we got promoted. And it's how do we choose to explain explanatory style and thinking? What was my thought process around it? That, Dr. Beth Mahaffey, is a tool that we can use to challenge ourselves, is being aware of what thinking and explanatory style we're using given a certain situation. How are we choosing to explain it? You and your partner are arguing, not you, but like me and my wife are arguing a lot lately. One explanation is, you know what, we're both veterinarians, we're both under a lot of stress lately. Would that be an optimistic? And so optimistic just means that, well, I don't think we don't have enough time to get into it, but there's two ways. It's like, it's me, like I'm the problem, she's the problem, or it's external circumstances are causing it. That's a way to be optimistic in the way that we describe what might be a negative situation. Something that's negative is this due to external circumstances, or is it me? Like I'm the problem. It's me. Thanks, T Swift. So, is it that, or, can I explain it by other means that doesn't bring me and this other person into it on a personal level? And so that we're under a lot of stress lately actually is an optimistic thinking and explanatory style, because it's giving a reason why that is changeable, because if I'm going to say, oh, well, the reason why is because she only cares if she's right. Well, if that's the case, there's nowhere to go from there.
Is there
There's nowhere
also
to go.
what you're talking about? Because I just had this conversation with my 18-year-old who is getting ready to go off for college. And I had this conversation about the fact that I want her to make choices for herself, not on whether or not she's making me proud, right? And she literally said, well, I don't want to disappoint you. And I said, here's a very clear thing that I'm going to tell you, is that you will do things that disappoint me. That does not make you a disappointment. Like, we all do dumb shit. We all make poor choices. There's not a single one of us that hasn't been like, ooh, that might not have been good. And given that prudence is very low on my list, I've made some dumb choices. But to me, what you're talking about is that, like, it is that whole thing, like, I am not a bad person. I just made a bad decision. And now I can't, like, I am not a bad vet. I just don't know how to do dentals well. And I think we get to that point where I remember, Beth, you talked about the fact that a lot of your team was self-critical. And we do this, right? Where we're like, I suck. I'm horrible. I'm bad at this. But you're not bad. You just aren't good at that. So what can we do to, and I think that's a perception thing again, but that's what that reminded me of, is instead of being like, you're an asshole, it's, oh, okay, we're fighting because we're under a lot of stress right now. And I'm not an asshole. You're not an asshole. It's just a crap situation. Boy, we're using a lot of language today. Sorry.
It happens. It's called life.
But is that kind of what you're saying as far as like the whole optimistic, pessimistic? Like, to me, that is that blame.
Well, that's just it, is that it's and like we talk about in an addiction or what have you, is like, hate the behavior, not the person, or whatever it is like, that's if it's the person. And this goes for everything. I mean, this goes for like how we view other people, like with everything that's going on in the country and all that. Is like, if I do that, I lose the humanity of that other person. Like, and then I'm seeing them through, that total lens. The other thing is, if we see ourselves that way, there's no growth mindset. That's when we talk about growth mindset and fear-based, fixed mindset, and growth confidence-based mindsets. And, if I'm like, oh, I'm a failure, I'm horrible at this, and we don't say yet, or that I have the capability of it, I have the capability of doing this, I'm going to choose not, though, to put the energy into that, because if my strength is way down here. Like, again, self-regulation for me to do that, it's like, with, I have ADHD and, like, oh, just get a planner. It's like, oh, thank you. Like, I haven't thought
Oh,
about
I
that
never
Everything.
thought of that.
for 40 years. Yeah, like every one of us has a stack of planner.
Oh.
This is going to be the one. This is going to be the one. But anyway, it's, it's just the energy that it takes to move something that my strengths don't match with. If I put that same amount of energy into something that I'm really strong at, way more of a return and be better, get way more joy out of that and that kind of thing. Versus putting the same amount of energy and effort into something that's only going to move the needle, a little bit. And so that's one of the other bases of strengths-based leadership and coaching.
And I think it's
That
important
might-
to note
yeah,
too
go
that
ahead.
that they can change. Like you should
Yeah. Oh yeah.
reevaluate what your strengths are, what your team's
Every
strengths
year,
are
every 6 months. Yeah.
on a regular basis because it can change, whether that's through life changes or coaching or going out and trying to help
Yeah.
yourself improve in certain areas or just learning with life. I do feel like that's kind of important to note too, because I feel like mine even changed a little bit from when I took it like a year ago
Yeah.
until now.
But you have to
Mhm.
want to change.
Yes, that's very true. And
I
put
have
time
been
and effort
around-
into working on the things
Yeah.
you want to be better at.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
around negative Nellies who have invested a lot of emotional time, mental space, intellect into the negative spiral of life, find too much value in it. They don't want to change,
Mhm.
So yes, I agree, you can change. You just have to want to do the work because feel like you said, some of it's a heavy lift to move
Yeah.
some of those things just a little
Mhm.
bit versus a lot of it,
Yeah.
that can be a lot, but I think we just, like you all have said, and I've been listening to this on and off, is you just got to keep going forward, right? You have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to try. You have to be willing to learn that you can make an impact on your life. You can make an impact on your decisions. You can make an impact on the outcome.
One might say you have to have hope.
Ooh, mic
might
drop right
say
there, right? And I think that's where we're going to wrap it up today. Because it's time. Nice ending, Jenny. Nice ending.
very nice.
Just
Very
have
nice.
hope.
Just have hope.
It's your superpower.
Right? Well, thank you all for joining us today. And we hope you return and future episodes. The Royal Wave, everybody. The Royal Unfiltered Wave. We will see you later on social media near you or podcast platforms near you. Please chime in, like us, and subscribe so you see our new episodes when they come out. Until later, have a great day.